3, 2, 1. So what are we? Some kind of Videodrome? That was a quote from Final Destination 5. I'm Adam from Your Movie Sucks. This is Sardonicast. Hello.
Long live the new flesh. I'm Alex from IHE. And,
probably would have been a better one, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I was like really kind of shocked you didn't whip that one out.
I've given up a long time ago.
Yeah,
I have given up so long ago. Anyway.
Yeah, but that's not all. We have a special guest today.
When do you think that is? When do you think it is that people decide to give up on YouTube?
Oh, million subs.
That's probably fair. That's probably a fair one. Where it's just like I have nothing left.
Who the hell's talking? Who is this?
Oh,
who are you?
I'm Hunter, aka Meat Canyon, aka Papa Meat. Hello.
Very, very nice.
I have a stomach that looks like a vagina.
Ooh,
which also ties into what we're talking about today as well.
Do you have a name for it?
Do I have a name for it?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I could just call it a meat canyon. Is what I could call it if I wanted to.
Yeah, that works.
The
if I wanted to.
Of meat. So, as a super meat boy, what exactly do you do?
I make cringy cartoons for 8-year-olds, and I
don't sell yourself short.
I like making videos about cringy subjects on my second channel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I do. That's how I pay the bills.
So I find your channel very interesting because there was a certain period of time where it seemed like this type of animated content on YouTube was just not coming back, where it would not be successful in any way because of how they changed the ad algorithms to favor long-form content, the amount of time and effort and labor that goes into making animated content. So I would like to, I guess, just pick your brain on this. How does it feel occupying this space? And was it a particular challenge growing on the platform in that way? And also, what's your production process like on your videos? How many people do you have working for you animating?
Yeah, I'm super curious on that.
What's each video like? Thanks.
Yeah, I guess to start with the production team, now we have about 15 people that work on the videos per video, so we have a pretty big team now. When I started, it was just myself. And I mean, yeah, I've heard that a lot about people saying that like this kind of animation was dead, or kind of like, I don't know if it's like the random XD kind of like Flash Newgrounds style stuff.
Very Newgrounds, yeah.
But that's just what I liked. You know, when I was in college, I didn't have internet till I was in college, so I didn't really have access till I missed that complete wave of all that shit. And I was obsessed with it in college, and just like, you know, when you get into college, you're kind of like figuring out like all the shit you really like and stuff. And I think that to me, I just enjoyed the kind of gross out character, like detail swabs of like SpongeBob and Ren and Stimpy and stuff, which I'm pretty sure is like obviously a huge inspiration for those guys too. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. But I know that back in the day, even whenever I wasn't even doing YouTube, because I didn't do YouTube till long after I was out of college. And I remember seeing other videos like Rubber Ninja made, Ross, and like Mick, Rice Pirate made, about how the site's changing, and it was kind of like it was like a death bell, basically being like, it's just done. We're done. There's no real way to make money with this. And I just thought that, you know, I think that that's what everybody believed. And I think for a time it was, but I just remember being like, I started posting just like 60-second cartoons on Instagram just because they were easy. I've never been like the best animator ever. And to me, I just wanted all of my favorite shows were people standing and talking. That's just all I wanted to do, was just tell
Space Ghost.
Shit. Space Ghost, Aqua Teen, Metalocalypse. It's just people standing and talking. Yeah. King of the Hill, whatever. But so I could still do the same kind of Flash animations, but pump them out relatively quickly. And I had to confine them to like 60 seconds because that's as long as like Instagram video would be back then. And then I just kind of on a whim was just like, you know, I mean, I'm making these. I don't know why I'm not. I remember I hit like 8,000 followers and I was like, you know, this is awesome. This is awesome. Whatever. But I decided, I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to put these up on YouTube just because, I mean, who cares? I'm not making money on Instagram. Why do I care? And the first one I posted, and the first big one that I posted was the Pinocchio one I did, which just so like by luck itself was the thing that like kind of started all this almost 5 years ago.
Oh, really?
So, but yeah, no. And then ever since there too, I worked in the animation industry, and there was a couple like Storytime animators that I worked with, which they were doing very well. And Storytime back then was like exploding. I mean, I still think that it does well, but I don't think it's as like crazy as it used to be, but I could be wrong. But, the biggest thing people said was like, oh, if you have a video hit, you really got to capitalize on it. And that was like the tragic tale of all of them that I met was like, I had a video that hit like 400,000 views, but then it took me like 4 months to upload something. And then it was just, there was no traction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, as soon as this one hit, I was just immediately started going. And then that's kind of what also caused this work cycle, just to kind of keep, you know, be competitive on the platform.
Yeah.
And not look at yourself as just an animator, but more so like a YouTube content creator.
Yeah.
So going back to your crew though, you said 15 people. What does that break down into? You got storyboard artists. How many animators are in there? Like, how does that?
Yeah, we have storyboard artists. We have about 4 to 6 animators. We have so like usually one comp designer, audio guy, dude for music. And I guess the 15 fluctuates with the amount of animators. Like we've been trying to do more 2D, like frame by frame stuff. And that just helps, obviously, if people have less shots.
Yeah, so. I noticed you collaborate a lot with Jamie R, who I've been a big fan of for a long time.
Oh yeah, I'm so lucky.
Some of those shots are like incredible. Yeah, how did that come together? Have you just been a fan for a long time?
I was pitching a show to 20th Century Fox with Hulu. Jamie was working on some of these Halloween shorts with them, and I got to just talk with him while he did like one of those Hulu-ween animation shorts, whatever.
Yeah,
right.
Pinelli show or whatever it was called.
Yes, exactly.
Thing?
So, yeah. And I was just, you know, talking to him, but then I was just like, yeah, you know, like if you're ever looking for any work again, let me know, because dude, like being an animator, especially in the YouTube system, like or in the Hollywood system, is terrible. It's the worst setup. It's like another reason too, which I mean, I'm paraphrasing this, of course, but like when I see like the Writers Guild of America, like these SAG strikes, and people are like, writers need to get paid more, you know, all this stuff. I just think about like all the animators who are like completely losing work, all the sound guys who are totally fucked,
visual effects artists,
effect, everybody. And it's like, and then they come back and they're like, we made $5 more an hour. I hope that 9 months of no work in LA did really good for you in your studio apartment. It just, it's such an under like appreciated thing. And it's like, there's no also salary position. That's like a big misconception that I had when I first moved out. Cause I went to LA when I graduated college and I was fucking broke. And then I went broke again, was homeless for like 3 months, living in my Dodge Caliber. Was the worst. But man, the whole idea was that like, you get a job and you're like, I did it. I got, you know, I'm a big animator now.
Made it.
And then they're like, all right, 3 months is out. Good luck. And then they kick you to the curb and you're like, I have to do this. I'll find a new contract all over again. And that's every time until you spend like, I don't know, 3-4 years in the industry to where you can make those like connections. So it was just brutal. But anyway, but I offered him the work just because I was like, man, I've been watching your stuff. I love it. Like it's body horror. I like doing horror stuff. It's like, I just think I have the most fun with it. And yeah, I mean, and also he is the fastest animator I've ever met in my life.
Oh, really?
He'd have to be.
It's disgusting.
Based on the fucking shit on his YouTube channel. It's like, how do you create that?
Oh my God.
As an animator?
I don't know.
Fluid.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's so fluid, and his roughs are like, because usually you go like, you do the animatic and then you do a rough pass, so that way people aren't like spending tons of time cleaning something and be like, dude, that's totally wrong. But all of his roughs are so clean, and you're like, how the fuck did you even think of like the physics of this? Like
Wow.
the thing is moving and stuff. So it's just it's so impressive. Yeah, and he's been great. I think he likes working on the videos. He keeps coming back, so we're very, very fortunate to have him in.
Yeah, shout out to Jamie R for anybody listening. You can just search that on YouTube. There's a video called A Prank Time. There's a video called You Lovely Lovers. Some really incredible animation. It's like I look at that and it reminds me of like Studio Ghibli's. You know, it's a very different
it is genuinely that quality.
But it's like holy shit, the fluidity of this animation and just how well all the visuals transition from one thing into another and the entire imaginative nature of it. It's I absolutely love it.
Yeah, there was a shot in the XQC video you did, the Tragedy of Reaction streamer, where I had to watch it like 20 times over because I was just so impressed. It's when the last maid is trying to escape and XQC like launches into the air with his elongated arm and his neck is flowing everywhere while this like 3D chair is flowing. It's just like incredible, some of the stuff you get in these videos now. That was one of the things I was really blown away with. Like you just said, like you haven't really been on the platform for that long, and we always talk about on the channel how we like to see like this growth. If you go back to older videos, and you really see it with your stuff, like just within a space of 3-4 years, like the quality is like just skyrocketed, and it's just going up and up with each one. Like, and it's so like inspiring to see, because I really thought this kind of content was pretty much dead and gone. Like old, like 2010 only NG Psychic Bubbles stuff, like, and they've had success in other ways.
I think that it exists still. I think it just takes time. I think that a lot of people that the old ways of doing it too was like the Psychic Pebbles and Oni and all those guys. They come from like you do it all yourself kind of thing, which I'm sure they had some help, but I think that was kind of mentality back then, is that like this art is a representation of yourself. And that was like a big thing. Like this is made completely by me. And which you still have that today with like Speedaroo, who just did Punch Forever, which was brilliant. You have like Worthy Kids, who makes brilliant animations. Not so much in like a Newground style, but still like just somebody who is like a jack of all trades. And I think that the only reason I'm successful is just because of like getting rid of the ego of like everything. Like, like it's all me. And instead just being like, I just want to like be able to, pay my bills.
But it still very much is you, I would say.
Oh, I mean, it is. Yeah. I mean, it's all written by me. It's all filtered through my brain, but
just with help.
It also helps me sleep at night and helps me keep me sane, being like having such an amazing team, which I link all of their stuff in all of my videos too. So if anybody's listening and they're like, who's the rest of the crew, please check it out, because they're all like just extremely talented. So, and they're great people to follow too. So
that's dope.
They're all there.
Yeah, it is. I need to find out how to stop micromanaging everything. It's my biggest fucking thing I need to figure out in the next decade. Yeah. But then figuring that out is like a big process in of itself, which takes up time, which is like, do I have this time right now? And blah, 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 blah. I've been through this rant before.
It's hard to put that trust in people was the biggest thing that was hard to overcome for me.
Especially when you try it and it doesn't work out too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you have to completely shoot yourself in the foot a couple times and realize like what priorities can you give people. And also sometimes I think it comes down to like, sometimes I don't think people are like looking to actively fuck you over, but sometimes it's just the things don't align right, and it is what it is. But then that goes to show too, where it's like, if you do have somebody who's looking for work, who's a good worker, like you should stick by them and you should like give them that respect and shit, because that it's very hard to come by. So
now, one of the reasons why I love your content and I wanted to have this conversation with you is because I feel as though your animations, although definitely touching on, kind of pop culture or like YouTuber figures, and there is, as you said, cringe, there is some mockery, there's some satire. I've always felt as though your particular videos, it's always coming from somewhat of an empathetic place. It never feels like you're just fucking bullying the shit out of somebody. Right. It always feels like, you're creating art, and there might be a criticism in the art, there might be a greater point to it, but you're not just going like, hey, you stink, and like I think it would be so easy for someone to create something where they think that they're doing what you're doing, but it actually just turning out to be, just really malicious, which I appreciate that you avoid. And I remember hearing you talk about Mr. Avocado, I think on your second channel or something. I don't remember, but you made it clear, like, hey, you can do whatever he wants. I'd like to, meet the guy and say hi. And I thought that was really cool. Whereas, you did. I thought that was really cool. Whereas a lot of people were just kind of being like, this is disgusting, and like kind of treating him as subhuman. Whereas you really, you made something empathetic, and you're willing to, treat people with dignity and still create good content. So I think that's pretty cool.
No, I mean, I think that things that, which, I'm not making like a fucking A24 art house piece or something like that, but I do try to like look at the narratives in that way and find interesting parallels and stuff. Like the Nikocado one, I struggle with weight too. And I have that sympathy, and I think it's like the choices you make are the things that define you and stuff. And the parallel with like King Midas is there, and I do feel like a lot of the time I look at his situation, and I think people see the main reason I think a lot of people get so up in arms and so nasty with people is money. Like they see him do these things, and they're like, you're ruining your body for money, or all these kinds of things like that. And I think like I don't know. I guess I just find more sympathy in that. I do think that like people are accountable for things that they do, obviously. And there are waves of things where I have been a little more critical. Like I know I did like the Logan Paul steals your wallet, where it's just being like, why the fuck are people trusting this guy or whatever. But even like in like the Colleen Ballinger thing of her singing this song, it's mostly just like, every person does this. It's just we're all mad at this person right now for whatever reason, or for like obvious reasons or whatever. But I mean, like,
not everybody we're going to grooms their audience, but everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But there's been tons of people who have like made the apologies. No, the
apology
video. But I think it's just about even like the XQC thing. Like in a way, like the XQC, it's not like I fuck it. And that's the thing too that I think younger audiences see these things and they say like, this is a hit job, or this is fuck this creator, like burn in hell, whatever. I don't agree with that. I don't hate anybody that I don't hate Logan Paul. Everybody's just so fucking stupid on YouTube. It's hard to hate them. It's like animals. They're all just these disgusting animals. The only problem is whenever they actually affect people outside of their zones, like Logan Paul stealing money from people and scamming people. Like
probably
those things,
to call
that's
those
like
things out, at least
irresponsible, and it's disgusting. But like XQC doing react things, where on a platform where people that's 90% of YouTube. The problem is when it's so egregious. And whenever you're just so pompous about it, I think that there's criticism to be had. But I think it's also like, to me, it becomes like, I see more fun in making a parallel with like a smog demon, like, or dragon, like hoarding wealth and like only obsessed with these views and like the face value of what those views get you and stuff. And like, and the XQC thing, I was like screaming. I was like, oh my fucking God, these commenters, I'm going to rip my hair out. People at the end were like, well, I don't know why she didn't just take the gold. He's like blind. And I'm like, you're missing the complete point of like excessive greed and stuff. But I think it's like, it's funner to make those things. And I think it lasts longer. And I think that it's like art that will be applicable to more people moving forward. Because if I just did something and it's all referential to like little memes in the moment, in a year, it'll be completely devoid of like soul. So this moving forward, I think people will be able to put new creators' faces to it. I think the Nikocado video, I think people can like see like a horror story within people, like some of themselves, maybe people they know. I think that like that's what I think makes the art transformative and fun. And I think that like the idea of it being a parody is surface level for business. Like if I didn't have to do parodies, I wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's what's propelled this growth. It's like what keeps my team paid.
Exactly.
And I think, and that's the thing that to me matters the most in the grand scheme of it all, versus being just like a pure auteur kind of thing. I would much rather just like get by and like, focus like if I have like something where I'm like, I want this to be like purely myself, I will make it in my own time and stuff, but there's work to be done now.
And yeah, doing, derivative content in the sense that like you're talking about something that other people are already talking about, and that helps you in the algorithm. That can just propel you to the point where your options for your own creative projects are limitless anyway, right? Like to be able to set yourself up in a way where you can fund your own projects that don't have to be talking about XQC or Ballinger or whatever.
So you've already done a successful Kickstarter, right? You've done 8 episodes of your own show. Do you have any
I did
more?
a Kickstarter a couple of years ago, which I was thinking about doing something again, but I've been kind of like back and forth on. But I think that you're right, though. I think it's just to me, perception is always king. Like perception is always what will be valuable in an online space. I mean, like even when somebody goes to your channel and they look at like view numbers or whatever, a lot of people will decide to leave or stay by that. If it's low, they're like, oh, I like that this person is kind of like an indie underground thing. Or if somebody's too like low in numbers, they might be like, oh, this is a dead channel, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So to me, I'm just trying to actively be a part of the algorithm, be a part of the, not just like, I'm not just an animator on YouTube. I want to be a figure on YouTube. And I think that like moving forward in my career too, I think that like, I can't just look at like artists that I want respect from. I have to look at like the greater, like the fucking Family Guy enjoyers who like keep the money flowing, you know what I mean? Like, and can set stuff up and like you can do more opportunities because people are like, oh, I know that name. Like just even knowing a name is so much power.
And you're clearly not doing it in a way where you're compromising any, like you're not creating content that you don't want to make. You're not creating content that isn't reflective of you. So,
yeah, no, it's not just like, like very like it's definitely not just like a content farm or anything like that.
Yes. It's not Darman Studios.
No, it's not Darman. I wish it was, but it's not Darman. But
I want to see the Papa Meat interpretation of Darman. I want to see a Darman animation.
The Darman animation.
Confirmed.
It's just one of those things where it's like it's playing the long game. Is what I'm trying to do as much as I can. So,
well, how have you navigated the like YouTube systems? Because I mean, we've all had bad experiences with copyright, with these strikes.
Yeah, do you get demonetized all the time or what?
Yeah, you must do, right? Because you have a lot of like gore. Yeah, how do you deal with that?
I've tried. They hit me at random times when I'm like, this video is definitely going to get hit. It doesn't. And then whenever I'm like, okay, cool, this looks great. And then I'll get like an age gate. Like one of my favorite videos I made was that Guy Fieri's Flavortown, Fogs Over Flavortown, which is like this beautiful 3D and 2D mixed animation that me and Halupi worked on, who's another great YouTube animator, brilliant 3D artist. And that got age gated because at the end, Guy pokes himself with one of his like porcupine tendril hairs and pulls off a piece of his skin, and that caused it to be age gated. So it's like working. You can't use excessive like blood is one thing I found. You can't do like busty anything. Like I think like if I show somebody with like tits or something like that, usually I will always like the way I draw things, which is just just everything looks fucking disgusting or whatever, but usually the proportions are off. It doesn't look anatomically correct. Like I can get away with these things because there's like usually the bot can't detect it because it's so skewed.
Yeah, you're right.
And like,
that's interesting. Yeah.
I've been doing more normal looking characters too, just because, I mean, I don't know. I get, you get bored after a while doing stuff, but the style of that, because I know that's like I see that as a criticism. And I know some people see the style I use as a crutch, but once again, it's just simply a business move of you have like, it's literally every video needs to be like a fucking 3-layer cake. Surface level people that are that dense can point and laugh and clap and be like, oh my God, I know that person and they look weird. And that goes a long way. Like it's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, of course.
Two, it's fun. It's fun to draw. And I think that it gives you enough leeway to manipulate and like also like do some janky shit with animation. Not having things on model as much with frame by frame, whatever, is fine because it looks kind of weird anyways. And then I think just the third aspect is then you can start worrying about your narrative and stuff, which is really where I put all of my heart into, is like the writing. And it is like a towing line between just being like, you know, uncomfortable dialogue. Mm-hmm. But hopefully every time, at least I strive to every time, especially within these last couple of years, really hit on an actual narrative that's underneath, but isn't so surface level to where people would be like, this is fucking lame, dude. Like, what? Why are you going easy on them? You know what I mean? It's like a delicate little dance that you have to do with people. So yeah. Some
people are only just going to be interpreting it as some sort of like, you know, people love drama. People love like internet flame war stuff. Like there's entire communities of people where it's like they can't even comprehend that something can be a criticism without it being like an attack or like, oh, fucking flame war. And it's like, oh, I thought I was just having a normal conversation with these people. Apparently their audience is like, thinks I killed someone. You know, there's going to be those types of communities on the internet, and it gets a lot of traction. So it's, you know, if they want to watch the videos, if they want to contribute to your success, great. But I love that you're more than that. You're very clearly not just doing this lowest common denominator, bottom of the barrel bullshit. You're making something substantive, and I really appreciate that.
You got to do that for yourself. And I think like another big thing too, and I'm sure you know, is like you just can't choose your audience. Like whoever stumbles across your video is going to watch it. You can cultivate an audience by the things you make because of like general interest, but like if something is like a viral cartoon, you have no control about how the way people are going to interpret it. So all you can do is just like make it to the best of your ability where you know, where like, this is my intention. Mm-hmm. And if people want to like run with it in a different way, that's their, you know, prerogative.
Yeah.
But I can't control that.
I believe that to a degree. And I believe like past 1 million subs, it gets more difficult to really weed out.
You can definitely make content that is skewed towards an audience.
For sure.
Right. Like you can, but I think like, when you're talking, at least from my experience, what I've seen, where it's like my intention was to make like this thing where it's clever. And then you see like like you'll see a subreddit post with people being like, yeah, they dragged that motherfucker face down through the dirt. But like
I want to curb stomp
the way. Yeah. And it's like, but that's like the only interaction those viewers have ever had with your channel.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I can't control that audience that has seen this deal, but you can at least know that like your core fan base, which my core fan base, I feel like I love them. They're all
the people that talk to you on
really,
Twitch.
really great. Talk to you on Twitch, the people that even comment on my YouTube videos when like a video isn't like a big viral thing. It's fun seeing the discussion people have, and just like, you know, it feels very like respectful in that way, which is nice. So
yeah, I love that you do that. I love that people can, you know, no one ever knows the real you in any situation, not even people closest to you in your life, but that there's at least an attempt to, you know, be a genuine person. I appreciate that. So.
Yeah, I try to always be a respectful arm length away. Mm-hmm. Like I've never really told people my age.
Ooh.
I think on Google it says I'm 42.
Nice.
So there's that.
Okay.
That's true, by the way. Definitely not a lie. But I don't. There needs to be like a level of like, I think with anybody, like, I mean, nobody's perfect on like the platform. That's like the biggest thing. And even seeing, God, like even just seeing like the crazy shit that went down with my buddies at Super Mega made me horrified to even be an online figure and stuff. And it's just a complete shame. I think what happened to them, I think that like it's horrible, and it just makes me even want to like crawl back even farther and create that distance even more with like, you don't fucking know me, I don't know you, just like laugh if you want to laugh, or
get out of control quick.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's impossible to not, you know, I think people are searching for that parasocial relationship, I think a lot of the time. And I don't know how you really combat that besides just like being like, don't or whatever. But it can be difficult because I think people like are looking to be a part of something and want to feel like they can put their trust in something. So
yeah, there's a threshold for everything. There's a spectrum for everything. I don't think it's like completely one way or the other. Like I do try to present myself as like a real person without, saying that it's literally a real person, because it's not, because no one is. Right. It's literally not possible to know anybody outside your own head, and even then, do you know yourself? Like, anyway, Alex, did you have any other questions? Because we could move on to talk to me.
Yeah, to wrap this kind of section up, where are the animated horror movies? Like, all the big successful animated movies tend to lean towards kids. If we're talking about the West, man, like
I think horror is underappreciated in a lot of ways. I think that. It's funny. Horror is like what started the film genre, pretty much, like as like actual film genre. Yeah. And I think that like horror is almost always used as a crutch in a lot of ways. Yeah. And I think with animation, the perception of animation always is that it's juvenile, it's for children. Even though you've had South Park, Simpsons, Family Guy be these like monumentous like money makers, even just like in terms of like business, like this is like there's an audience for these things. I think it's always kind of, if you watch this, you're a kid, unless it's anime, which that's kind of become the new narrative where it's like now every adult watches anime, and anime is like, lifeblood for people. But I think like I look at every piece of horror animation out there, and it's all usually pretty bad. Like, not to throw shade at anybody, but it's like there was that new FX show with Danny DeVito. It's fucking terrible. It's just another case where it's like,
not aware of it.
Yeah, there you go. And it's the but it's always an outcome where horror is a crutch to comedy. Where it's like, we're zombies and we like smoking weed. We like pounding beers. Hey, I'm a demon and I like to drink alcohol. It's like, cool. Which is like, I am actively trying to subvert that, because horror and comedy can exist so well together. It's so, both of them are so absurd. And when I say horror too, I don't remember the last time I was actually scared. I just think the themes of horror are brilliant. I love the atmosphere you can have with it. People are more comfortable being in a weird atmosphere in horror. It's fun. So I think like I like doing things where it's like you have the comedy be a crutch for the horror, where it's like me, I like doing stuff where it's like I had that video where it's like you're afraid to take a shit in public, so a monster's going to come. And like, that's your punishment. It's like a yokai or something like that, where it's like, it's a really silly theme, but we're going to present it in a really serious way. And in a way that like adds to the comedy, or it adds to like the horror of it even, is that we're treating the horror with respect, and the comedy is the thing that's silly, which that's what it needs to be. Versus, like Ugly Americans, where it, once again, it's like, I'm a zombie and I like smoking weed and looking at titties, and, my girlfriend's a demon. Like, what are the writers trying to say with that? Like, it's kind of shitty. And also, I think, too, the only thing that has proven to make profit in theaters is animated kids films, because parents don't know how to talk with their kids, and they're just like, I'm going to throw you in a movie theater for an hour and a half and you're going to watch this garbage. Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to the... we saw a film called Talk to Me, an Australian horror film.
Made by YouTubers.
It's the first horror film that was made upside down.
It's true. It's the first Australian movie ever, actually. Yes. Which you didn't know that. The only things to come from Australia are AC/DC and Talk to Me.
Did anybody watch Wolf Creek from like 2005?
Oh, yes.
That was in Australia. Yes. They made a fucking miniseries out of it, and it's so funny. I'll finish it someday. It's kind of dumb.
I remember Wolf Creek was like, I remember being like, this is messed up. And I rewatched that recently, and I'm like, this movie fucking sucks.
It was great when I was like 14.
Yeah. Same with like all those old remakes, like all the slasher remakes from the early 2000s, and like Hills Have Eyes. I remember like that being like extremely hard to watch, and then I watched it recently, and compared to shit now, you're like, oh, this is very tame. But Wolf Creek, I mean, the original one, it's a fun. If you like Australian accents, it's a fun movie to just put on.
He's like the funniest villain that could be compared to like a Freddy or Jason or Michael Myers. It's just Australian man.
Like
it's so
fatter
funny.
Steve Irwin, more redneck Steve Irwin, basically.
I love it. That's he makes the whole thing fun. Anyway, talk to me. A24, made by some YouTubers. What's their channel name again? I don't remember. I never watched them before.
Raka.
Oh yeah, what? Can you say that again?
Raka.
Raka,
yeah.
And
you never saw Raka before this?
No, I didn't know about them before they made this film.
Yeah,
oh man, yeah. When I was sorry to die, I'm not trying to keep interrupting you, but
no, this is a part of the conversation. Go for it.
No, go for it.
The Raka guys have. I remember seeing they had this big video when I was younger. God, I don't know if it was before YouTube or not, but this might have been like 2009 or something. They've been around a long time and they've been filming stuff forever. But they had the big video pop off where like basically Ronald McDonald just like beats the shit out of a kid on a commercial set.
Oh, okay.
But the thing that was so different about them was that they knew how to film action. Like they're very good action directors and they're stuntmen and shit. And that's what set their channel apart. But yeah.
How do we feel about Talk to Me? And how long ago did everybody watch it? I watched it at around in August, I think, at Fantasia Fest in Montreal, but it was already kind of like out at that point. So
yeah, it's been a couple months for me.
I've seen it twice. The first time I saw it was at South by Southwest.
Oh yeah,
whenever they were doing the screenings there, and I loved it. I have so much respect for that film, especially just coming from a creator standpoint. I have so much respect for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's for a freshman film, it feels so fully realized, and I think that if this was a 43-year-old man trying to write the script, it would have been dog shit. It would have been like just like the aspect of like kids getting around in a believable way, and like the way they use social media doesn't feel egregious.
Exactly.
Like I was trying to compare it to my friend where I was like, watch Talk to Me and then watch that new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie on Netflix.
I'm morbidly curious about that one. Yeah.
Oh my God. There's a scene where Leatherface goes onto like this like social media party bus.
Oh, that sounds so funny.
It is. It is funny, but yeah, the guy takes out his phone and he's like, "You are so canceled." That's what he says, and then he kills everybody.
That sounds so good. I have to watch this movie.
It's so
okay.
bad.
I have to watch that.
By that point in the movie, I was just screaming like "fuck you" at the TV.
So
I was like,
good.
"Fuck you."
That's amazing. Yeah, so in terms of the script, I like what it explored, and I wasn't on board with every excuse that they had for why characters did certain things. And like, yeah, they're kids, and I get that this is, spoiler discussion, everybody. This is a spoiler discussion, by the way. It's supposed to be a metaphor about, like drug use and like social media and, just these vices that kids have and like oversharing and peer pressure. And I get that, but I still felt like they were kind of fucking idiots. It was one of those horror movies where like, I love, like it's brutal. I love what they're showing, but I do have to get past the, like everybody's really, really, really dumb. Maybe the dumbest people on the fucking planet. And it's in a way where it's going to keep the story going. And I like what they're showing, but everybody's a moron. But
yeah, it really did not bother me that it was, dumb kids messing around with this, allegory for drugs, for partying, for, just irresponsibility. They're watching KSI. As Hunter said, they're using social media, and that all felt very grounded and realistic to me. And that was definitely something those guys understand and brought to it, but also like an energy. It felt really original to me. Extremely energetic. I think Hunter was also saying about the action direction of the stuff on YouTube, and it really comes through with the movements of the camera when they are engaging with the MacGuffin hand, the embalmed hand, which is like a fun way to get everything moving. Like familiar tropes, like opening with a gruesome kill in some form, but then the way it like wraps around on itself and explains it and embellishes itself, that was all like really satisfying and really awesome to me. Like, there was really that energy though that kept it going. Like, and some true, like, surprising, effective horror. Like, we're in spoilers, right? Because there's
Yeah.
that scene later on, I think towards the second act, where the main character is talking to that little girl, and it's kind of the inverse scene where she says, "I'll show you what it's like," kind of on the other side, and just the creativity of how they depict what this other like hellish world is like. That was sending a tingle down my spine. I got to admit, that was like some horrifying imagery right there, like claustrophobic and gory, and as I think you already said, it does not hold back. Like I was thinking of you when the young guy, like he's like smashing his head into the table, and it's like, oh my god, they actually went there.
I just love seeing a kid suffer in a film.
Clearly, yeah.
I'm like, oh, there's real consequences. There's real stakes here. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
It really did feel like consequence was there.
You're not making a fake movie.
I guess in the original cut too, they said that vision of hell or whatever was originally 6 minutes long.
Really?
Of like some horrendous shit that they filmed.
I want to see that.
Yeah, I
or
do
whatever.
wanna see
And
that
I begged. I was like begging them. I'm like, dude, when this gets released on Blu-ray, you got to release like a director's cut of something like that. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, just some deleted scenes. I do love that it brings that sort of fantasy horror element. It is, we're talking about like the dead and supernatural, but I think that horror works best in terms of creating something that's terrifying when it's like existentially terrifying, not just, there's a thing that's going to hurt me or a thing that's going to kill me. It's like, oh, no, you're actually going to suffer for like eternity. And there's like, and it is going to be like never ending torture and pain. And it's like, this is just awful and you're screwed and there's no way you can get out of this. It's like,
they didn't get lost in the exposition of it either. They didn't feel the need to over explain, what was happening or some grand fix to this, like a.
Yeah. The movie would be so much worse if they were like, where the hell did this arm come from? And they spent time worrying about that. It would make the movie so fucking bad. It's just it's one of those perfect examples of just like this thing exists in this universe and that's all you really need to know. And it's like it just works. And we're showing you that it works so you can trust us that it works without going into like all this, monotonous super convoluted details into this thing and trying to like make sure it makes sense to the audience.
Yeah, I liked the mom character. I liked the no party tonight scene. That was fun.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. I feel like there's enough character moments that work in this film that it just doesn't feel like, oh, it's only for the gore and for the brutality. There's just enough of it. I don't think every character moment works. There are definitely parts of the film where I was kind of like, move things along, please. I didn't really care about a couple parts for sure, but
yeah, there was really only a couple parts for me where I was like, it felt like not egregious in that way, but like the pacing. But in terms of like, I guess all the parts that it did feel like that, I'm like, this makes sense for just like a super, like a child who thinks that they know everything. I think was the fun part of that for me. I think that's like also why a lot of the stupid moments, like you were saying earlier too, was like it felt believable because kids think they know everything and they're just really just super fucking dumb. I think is like the big part, and also like putting a lot of like weight of like it kind of had the same feeling for me whenever you have stuff where people are like, oh god, it's my first day of high school, and like acting like high school really matters, and like all these like blowing things way out of proportion. And you have one character who is dealing with like loss, and other characters who are kind of like trying to care as a high schooler about those things, but not really understanding how to, or just being like, get over it, which I thought worked really well. I think the only part really that was egregious for me was, or not even egregious, but I was like, oh yeah, a mile away, was the dad death scene.
That was
where
fun.
I was like, I felt like, I thought that one was kind of like super, it was like pretty plain, like to see that was going to happen, but I don't really know if should be counted as a negative. I just remember being like, oh yeah. And also, I think the only other thing, and I'll shut up, is the when the girl leaves the hospital, like her brother, because she's like, all right, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna come find you. Out of all the things that would happen, I feel like I'd be like, dude, I'm not gonna go anywhere near you. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I'm not gonna leave my brother here. So I thought that like the reasoning for her leaving, I thought was a bit it didn't feel super believable, or like that I it didn't feel like I was like it felt justified enough.
That's the one time I was kind of pulled out. It was in that hospital sequence. I love where it wraps up and where it goes and finishes off those characters. How miserable that is, but that section where she is in the hospital and has to get him outside, I was just like, I felt like it skipped it over in a way where it's like you just don't think about how this practically happened, because this was like this I just feel like it never happened the way it did. Like, I don't know how she kind of snuck him out there and all this kind of stuff. But that was the only time anything of that nature was really pulling me out of the tone of what it was going for.
I think the two parts I like the most, I know we talked about the face smash scene, but the face smash scene comes in such a great way when they did it. Is this Smash Mouth thing, the dead singer. His ghost pops up in it. It's actually his hand. Is they only use that one moment of extreme gratuity, and it's very visceral, and it like hits you across the face really fucking hard. Mm-hmm. But they don't linger in that, and they don't like set a bar that they're like continuously trying to hit the rest of the movie. It's just kind of used in that one spot, and I think that makes it a lot more impactful. And I think every time we revisit the child too now, you feel that weight from that. And if it would have happened more, I feel like you wouldn't have really you would have sympathized with the kid, but I don't think that you would have really felt that pain. Or like, I mean, every time you see him after that, it's hard. It's like hard to look at him.
Great makeup also.
Oh, yeah. Great. And I think, and that's another thing too, is I think that they took the ghost route of it in a fun way, where I would say the costumes are not necessarily generic, but it just feels like dead people. Kind of like it's like a better version of like a Sixth Sense vibe of like, these are just kind of like what they died in, and they've just been kind of slowly deteriorating. But it's very, it's subtle, and it also kind of lends itself to why the kids are like, yeah, look at this old hag. Yeah. She's wearing pearls, or, like whatever. And it like kind of keeps it fun for them and a little dangerous and weird, which I like as well. But I do think the strongest part of this movie I love the most is the ending. Like, I think that the ending is so fun and such a great way to end it.
Leaves it open for a sequel.
Yeah. It does. It leaves it open for a sequel, and it also does something that I love with horror films, where it's just like, it could be anywhere in the world. It could happen to anybody. Mm-hmm. And I love that it kind of like, it ends on that note too, which is really fun. Like, it isn't just like confined to this area. It's just something that like gets around. Like, this hand is just something that is passed around all over the world.
Jumanji.
And I it is exactly Jumanji. And it's actually not the Smash Mouth singer's arm. It's Robin Williams' hand.
I want to point out the sound design in this film, because I felt like a lot of the kind of creepy, unnerving elements of ththese possession scenes, or they wound up using some like very watery sounds, like bubbling, and in a movie, it's not the first time it's been done, but in a movie like, I don't know, The Ring, you would learn like, oh, it's specifically because there's water involved, and it's like, okay, that makes sense too. But in this film, I like that it was just like kind of an added texture to it, rather than there needing to be like an actual explained, water.
It's like an unexplained. It's an unexplained folly that just works. Yes. Which it's always really fun. It's like, it's just the more like, when people can get away with textures like that, and then you also aren't like, why does it sound like they're underwater or something? Because I don't ever think I ever felt that way. I think it's just a nice little layer across the top, like an icing that just it thickens that sound and makes it feel a little more full. And I think that it helps it a lot.
And when something sounds wet, it sounds gross. It's like, why does it sound wet?
Yeah, without also being super like maggoty. You know what I mean? Because I think also people kind of go that too with like too much of like the slushy, like
like
almost like
macaroni and cheese.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is surprisingly subtle and subdued. Like, it never goes into the realm of like cartoonish horror, which has its place, but it wouldn't have really served this story they were trying to tell, because you want to be there with those kids and actually feel the stakes and feel the fear, and I really felt like I did. The only other like major kind of negative I had was more I don't know, while the editing is extremely brisk and I feel like it does move quickly, it felt longer than 90 minutes to me. I don't know if that's just a first viewing experience, or there was something about the pacing there where it was maybe sagging a little bit in the middle.
I think it's the character dialogue that I think Adam also said that he
not all of it works.
Yeah, I think that some of it, it's like some of the I think that you could speed along those like lulls, because I think that you're really excited about stuff, and then you kind of come back to the character who's struggling with like missing her mom, or like some of the conversations she has with her friends. I think does put you in a sense of like, it really does. We get into like almost a little bit of a tar pit of slowing things down a bit, but. I can see how some of those sequences can feel long. Almost like it kind of felt like the same like criticisms I saw with like Midnight Mass was like these long layers of exposition and like dialogue where, you know, the scripts are good, but I can see people being like, this is like not boring, but slow. Like this feels like kind of a slog to get through.
It could have. It's not even necessarily that the ratio of dialogue to horror action was wrong. It's just that not all of the dialogue was perfect. And it's clear that they know how to do it and that they can do it. It's just a matter of this being their first feature, and hopefully in their second feature-length film, they can really pinpoint what exactly about the dialogue scenes that worked made them work, and have that as a constant throughout every dialogue scene. That's my ideal. That's my hope. But yeah, just not all of it needed to be there, and it kind of just felt like, move things along. But I do like that it was only 90 minutes, because even though it did feel longer than that, it's like it didn't overstay its welcome still.
No. And I think that another thing they did well too for a freshman film is they got over the fucking terrible hump in horror where it's like, we have to show characters being funny and likable or whatever. I think that they did that in a really natural way where it didn't feel too egregious. I mean, like, found footage films are the worst with that, just to like, you know, because they're setting up like
they're trying to kill time.
I just got a new camera. It's weird. Oh, that's crazy. Don't record me with that thing.
You know, like that kind of thing, whatever.
Stop pranking me.
Come on, man.
Hey, dude, Tyler, stop, funny. Dude. Seriously. But the with the talk to me thing I thought was great was I really liked how they used the social hangout party things, and how like you set up a very simple thing about like a girl who misses her mom, and then you also have her feel like an outcast amongst these people, and you see them all having fun, and it kind of I think it just all leads really well into the justification of her being like, I want to fit in, I also want to escape, I don't want to feel this way anymore, but I also want to look cool in front of these people. And I think that I thought all of the young actors just did a really great job.
True. Like, I liked that a lot. That elevates it.
That was like one thing that I noticed when I was watching it was like, I believe all of these characters. None of them feel like shitty 80s slasher, like definitely a 32-year-old playing an 18-year-old, like showing her tits or something like that. It all feels like very believable. I think that's like actually such a huge hurdle to get over, is to find like young, talented people that can pull that off in a believable way. I think it's their highest grossing horror film. A24's.
On a tiny budget, 4.5 million as well. That's very impressive.
Well, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard the story of them talking about that, but initially they got a bigger offer from a US studio, but their notes were just egregious. So
they wanted to have control.
Michael and Danny were just like, fuck this, we're just going to film it ourselves. And they did, and it killed. And if you guys want, if there's any people who are looking for some motivation, go to the Rocka channel and look at their Sundance video. And like, it's unbelievable, like what they've had to overcome. And then to have that thing pan out is just like, it's uplifting. It's like, it's impossible not to feel like you want to take over the world after watching it. I feel like it's really, really good.
What would you give Talk to Me out of 10? Yeah,
I mean, personally, I give it a 9 out of 10. I love the movie. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, nice. I'm a little bit lower on my first watch, but I have only seen it the one time, so it would be a very high 7 out of 10 or 3.5 star for now. But I'm very excited to see what these guys do next. I'm very happy it was a success for them. Because I think they've got ideas for a sequel, and it's already been greenlit. So yeah,
it's a sequel or a prequel, but I think they also just got signed on to do Street Fighter.
Excuse me, I think it's called a squeakquel.
A squeakquel. That's what it is.
That's what they were
That's right.
saying.
That's right.
And I'm giving this one a very high 6 out of 10. I will watch it again. I'll probably buy it. I'm anticipating the next time I see it. I enjoyed it very much, despite some issues. Hunter recommended a film for all of us to watch.
Yes.
We're doing a spoiler discussion of Videodrome, a Cronenberg film, a Canadian film.
My boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Would you like to give a brief synopsis or, say as much as you want? Spoiler discussion, just kind of introduce the film.
Yeah, I mean, the movie is just about James Woods is not a senile, crazy conservative on Twitter. He's a young man in this film, but he's like a television producer, and he comes across like this smut tape called Videodrome, and he sees like the potential to make big money off of it. Basically, the whole film is him exploring what this thing is and the repercussions of what this tape has on not only himself, but like a love interest in the film. But it's an interesting movie where it's like technology and man kind of fuse. It feels very what is it?
Cronenberg-y?
Not forthcoming, like fortune telling, or it feels like it predicted the future of like what media is to people now, and like that kind of like blend between like what like the media we consume with ourselves, and it's awesome. It's my favorite one. It's like I think it was Cronenberg's first big flop, but I think it's my favorite Cronenberg film. It's so good. I love it. I'm actually curious to hear what you guys think, because sometimes I give it to people and they're like, this is great, and then some people are like, what the fuck? Which is very Cronenberg as well. Like, what did I just watch? But no.
What do you think, Alex?
I'm curious what you guys think.
I was picking up some of those similar things, the ahead of its time nature, with the, it happens a lot of the time with emerging technologies, new ideas, having VHS tapes in the home, and the rise of the snuff film, and these kind of concepts, and the kind of natural horror that comes from that. I did really like the way that kind of unfolded. It's not really my favorite Cronenberg, though.
What is?
It has its moments for sure. It's probably Naked Lunch. I'm a big fan of that story. Yeah, but I know this is kind of the one. The one people point to. What about you, Adam? Because I don't know. There's a lot going on here. Because when they're talking about we're living in overstimulated times, the desensitization, just the social media world we live in now. It seemed like they were just describing a less exaggerated version of what we are living now, and that was kind of my favorite part of it. Was wow, like for 83, this is very prescient. This is basically predicting the future. And I always love when a film can do that. It's what you were saying earlier about what you try to embody your animations with. Where if you get that narrative in there, you get that story in there, and if you balance the horror elements right, it can just be a timeless kind of story and almost warning of sorts. It's like paranoid. It's very paranoid, and it's almost like this weird government psyop stuff that comes in. I like what it was playing with. But I'll get into some deeper thoughts once Adam says what his initial thoughts.
Yeah, so I'd seen Videodrome once before. This is my second viewing. Glad to be able to revisit it. Because I think I was like, I don't know, like 15 or something when I saw it the first time. I have no idea, but it was a long time ago. I've seen Naked Lunch. I agree, that is also my favorite Cronenberg, but I haven't seen Existence. I haven't seen Crash. I haven't seen Dead Ringers. So I don't know if those are supposed to be better or how I'd feel about them. It's I kind of think of David Cronenberg in a similar way that I do to David Lynch, where a lot of what I consider to be my favorites from them are not necessarily what a lot of their diehard fans would consider to be their favorites.
I think that I just to say like that's an interesting point, because I think that shows a great director. It's hard to pinpoint which is people's favorite from Eraserhead to like whatever, but
People have these conversations about Quentin Tarantino too. Like everybody has a different favorite, or like even a different least favorite, and it's never just one. It's all completely across the map. And so part of what works for me so well about Naked Lunch is the kind of like poetic and metaphorical nature of it, and I just love it like as a character piece, and there's so much like intrigue about it. Whereas this film, I found that most of what I was enjoying about it was the like practical effects nature, which obviously you're watching a Cronenberg film, you know, it's been memed to death, like the fucking Rick and Morty. It's like, oh, we're turning to Cronenberg's Morty, you know, this body horror sort of thing, which I thought was done absolutely fantastically in this film. He's got like a big abdussy.
It is an abdussy.
Yeah.
And they are not afraid to show it and like put shit in it and do it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Have you seen the like theatrical versus director's cut? So we all watched the director's cut. So we all saw the the Criterion version, I believe, is just the director's cut. That's what I saw. So
yeah.
Do you know? Like, I'm assuming it would just be like, oh, they showed less of the abdussy or something. Like,
yeah. Like when I first saw it, it was on Sci-Fi way back in the day. And that was like super censored, like, you know, like a lot of like the extremely gratuitous scenes, like the one where like the gun is like fusing to the hand and like the like tendrils come out and like go into the skin and stuff. It was just less of that. But I mean, and also like, you know, God, I feel like it cut like 15 fucking minutes of the runtime, because a lot of this movie is like very sexual and like very exploitative in that way, and I think that they cut a lot of that stuff out. But I mean, like the Criterion one is the way to go, I think, just watching the director's cut of it.
Yeah. So I do it's an interesting film because it as you were both saying, it does kind of touch on these ideas being like ahead of its time, you know, into this weird kind of like snuff reality, like almost into fucking like you could just imagine internet dark web material. I was actually watching a movie like a couple days ago where it was like almost about that, and I like what it's touching on. I don't like James Woods, not because of his Twitter, but I feel like he's kind of a charisma vacuum, and I understand that his character is not supposed to be a likable character. He's supposed to be kind of like a sleazebag. You're supposed to like not sleazy, like him. But I just found myself not really getting much out of like his screen presence, let's say. For most of I mean, like for the first 30 minutes I felt were like really, really, really slow. For me, just because I'm not...
No, I'm right there with you. That was my biggest problem. After that 30 minutes was up and it started turning into the more surreal, oh, what's real here? What is this tape doing? There is more of like the MacGuffins being explored a bit more. Then I was kind of like falling in love with what I was seeing, but getting there was a bit clunky to me, you know, when he's sort of like, he's being the player on TV and like asking girls out and then jumping to sex scenes and all this kind of stuff. Like it was like, okay, where's this going? I need something to get moving a little bit. I need something about this character to care about or to even hate more. Or, what is the impetus of this? Like, where is this going? But yeah, it really does take off though after that half an hour.
That's another way in which it's kind of it was reminding me of David Lynch films, is because a lot of the times, sometimes just the experience of the film is more or less connecting with the tone and the aesthetic. And, you know, things like the lighting and set design choices and like things like that. When we first get into that room where they're on the sheets on the floor and then it turns into that room, I'm like, ooh, super into it. Like, I love what they designed there, but that's just like such a small moment in the first 30 minutes. I'm like, come on, give me more. Let's get back to this, the surrealist nature. Let's get back to like the fucking TV turning into a thing. And like, oh my God, I love that effect of, you know, the one on the poster, he's like putting his head through the TV and you can still see the projected image there.
That's
and it's
incredible.
Like a big bubble, like mind-blowing effects. But yeah, in terms of just the tone and the story and the pieces that exist for the first act, it wasn't enough for me. That's my biggest problem, is like there's things there, but it didn't the entire structure of it wasn't as connecting with me on like a personal level as it could have been.
Yeah, I mean, I think like to add to that. Well, one, I think I don't know. I like James Woods in this film.
Mm-hmm.
I think James Woods is, but to be fair, I like he kind of is representative of almost every, in my opinion, every Cronenberg character besides like Jeff Goldblum.
He reminded me of like Jeff Goldblum in this movie. They're kind of similar. I think he has a type.
I think Jeff Goldblum, I think in The Fly is this nerd that you really get behind or whatever. And I think he's very sympathetic. I think James Woods is just, it reminded me a lot. He reminds me more of the character from Scanners. Like it's just kind of like a character that is on this journey. And it's less about like, I guess the trials and tribulations of him as a character versus like the things he's unfolding, the experience he's going through. And I think James Woods' performance is kind of goofy and fun in that way. Like it always stands out to me. Like, I don't know. It definitely crescendos and gets better as the more surrealist stuff. And as he's like fondling his own ab pussy and stuff. But like a lot of just like beautiful vignettes in this film. I think that it's more so for me. And like, I just love how a lot of the movie is shot. It's just like, I think one of his best shot films, like, love the Red Room. Love when he's like whipping the TV. Like he like centers a lot of the just like the use of like a television screen and like a television box in this film. Yeah. And I think like that is really cool. And he still branches out in some fun ways with like that weird fucking headset and stuff that James Woods wears. And you're like, what the fuck is this thing? But
it's too bright.
It just turns
turn the brightness down.
Into this like this like weird surrealist nightmare kind of thing. But I enjoy the pacing of the film too. I know that like that, and I don't know if it's just because I have rose goggles for the movie too, and that could very well be the case.
You don't have to make excuses. Like everybody has. There's a lot of people that love this and consider it to be his best. So we want to hear you talk about why you love it, really. So
I think it's just the way that the movie flows is almost so nonchalant that when he's like figuring these things out, he's just kind of like walking into buildings and just like asking these very weird questions that he gets like really no answers to. Like the movie's just kind of full of James Woods just kind of stumbling across like new areas and new things. And I don't know why it's so satisfying to me, but it is. It's just like very bumbly and kind of fucking stupid, but there's like so much intent and so much like artistic vision that's going into like everything that's on screen.
Yeah.
I always feel like it's almost like I enjoy how simple his character is with some of the complex things that are going on visually, which I think are definitely like the forefront of what's happening, I think, or like what he's trying to do.
It does strike me as something where it's like, okay, this is perfectly exactly what he wanted to make. Like this is just what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Even if like not every moment of the film works for me, it's like, oh wow, you had a vision, you did it. I think that just as the film goes along, like I'm so much more into it, just seeing all this crazy fucking like body horror, and when he shoots the guy on stage and his body starts kind of like weirdly decomposing in this kind of like The Thing or like the end of the first Evil Dead almost, but like really incredible I don't know, not really animatronics or I don't know what to call it, but just practical,
just Rick Baker
puppetry
practical
and
effects.
Yeah. Really fucking love that shit. We got Debbie Harry is in the movie, who would later, many decades later, become famous for singing the song "Fragments" by Unkindness. She was pretty good in it.
Oh yeah.
There was a lot of boobs in the movie. There was a lot of booba.
That's one thing with Cronenberg. I feel like is he throws a lot of. It's a lot of. I don't know if how much of his catalog you've seen, but I feel like a lot of what he films is like sex and stuff, which is so polar opposite to like I guess who he is as a person. He's a very like, which I guess is always kind of the case, right? Like the most like tame people are usually the most ones who make like the most depraved stuff. But I feel like sex is such an important part of his discussion in his film and how it like affects like how not only how sex affects like people, but how it's used effectively to like manipulate people and like lust and desire. And I always think that that's like an interesting thing with his films, especially something like Crash or something where it's just all about that sexual thrill, like kind of crazy, like near death defying things of getting in a car wreck. And that's the only way that you can make, as they say.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I know enough about it that I'm very intrigued. I know what it's about.
Yeah.
Music by Howard Shore, I think.
Howard Shore, yeah.
Yeah,
it was.
which is crazy. Because I was
very different than some of the stuff you picture.
exactly. The name just has an entirely different association by this point in terms of tone. But yeah, the music did a lot for me. Very much enjoying the sounds and the tones that were being presented and just how it worked with the film. It felt like it was complementing it very well. It never felt like it was clashing. It always felt like it was being used appropriately, which I really loved.
Yeah, the film has a great atmosphere.
Yes.
And while I wasn't really into that first half an hour, there were just these continuous motifs that I was noticing and enjoying, like, the screen within a screen stuff, that weird guy who insists to only speak through pre-recorded videotapes and whatnot. That's like a fun thing that carries it through, and all this eye imagery with it all coalescing with the like new sunglasses line on the stage, and there's that big, really impressive set with the sunglasses in the background, and it's all thematic and links together with like being watched and this government intervention and this new tech and these satellites and this weird VR headset and all this kind of stuff. I just love that paranoia, and this idea of media control and the government incepting these images and experimenting with these technologies. And I just kept thinking about, like, man, we really are desensitized, because I was thinking about when they're showing the Videodrome footage at the beginning. It's like, man, there's stuff going around on Twitter right now that's like more extreme than
everybody's fucking
than this,
You're right.
Yeah,
absolutely right.
So
That's
it's like, that was really like, man, this is really clever.
It was scandalous
for doing
in the
that
80s.
so early.
It was like, oh, how can you show that in a film?
Exactly, yeah. And you have to remember it through
disgusting.
that lens. Like, it was 83, like
Exactly.
different expectations, different time, but that's part
Different
of what makes
sensitivities.
it as prescient.
Just yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I think there's something too that works with the film with me too, that like the entire aspect of is that like the characters in the movie are watching Videodrome, and it's like, and it's detrimental to them, right? Like, it's like destroying their brains almost. But almost as the movie goes on, as the viewers watching Videodrome, it's almost like, in a way, I wonder how much of it was like supposed to be like, because you're watching Videodrome, your brain's getting fucked with too, because you're like, you spiral into this like surrealist nightmare with James Woods, and like where our vision is aligned with his. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting where it's just like, by even just consuming this movie, it's doing exactly what the like Videodrome is saying that it's doing to you, or like watching this kind of like smut is doing the same kind of thing, or that Videodrome is having that effect, which is kind of a fun, like almost like fourth wall break kind of.
Yeah, I know
way to
exactly what
watch
you
it.
mean. There's a movie from 2007 called The Signal, not to be confused with the 2011 film called The Signal, but the 2007 one, which I really like. David Bruckner directed a third of it. It feels like you're high watching it. And it has a lot of the same concepts in terms of like, oh, there's a signal and it's infecting people's brains and it makes you go crazy, and it's more of a horror movie, but sometimes, things veer in like a different direction. And it's just like, it feels like such a fucking trip watching it, where it's like, okay, there is like a meta layer to just feeling this way watching the film, because it's like you feel like you're getting infected by the signal in the same way. I like that. So I know exactly what you're talking about, but with this film in particular, there's so much that I appreciate about it, and there's just, the craftsmanship, the directing, the special effects work, et cetera, but just on a personal level, don't really connect to it. Don't like James Woods. And there's parts of the movie that I wish, I could just fast forward through and just get to more of the special effects showcase. And yeah, there's so many parts of this movie that work, but just the entire experience is not as strong as it could be. And I will stand Naked Lunch.
I say stay at Naked Lunch, yeah. I think that, like, I think all the critiques you have too are totally valid. I think that it's just with anything too, with any piece of art, I think it's just like perception and how you consume it or whatever. I enjoy watching James Woods just durdle around like a VHS library and almost like spend 10 minutes not saying a single word and just like looking around menacingly. I don't know why I enjoy that.
I wasn't really distracted by James Woods, to be honest. I thought it was fine and appropriate for the role. Because once things started happening to him after that 30-minute point, I was more like, yeah, this is the kind of character I want to see this happen to. It's like a fun, seedy little experiment. And the fact like he is like, yeah, he works for this in the smut department basically, and that's like his whole impetus is just going around trying to find the new gross thing to show people. I thought that was like a fun character, and I think he sold it for. There is some corniness there with how he delivers some of his lines, but
totally.
I don't know. That worked for me. That did work for me.
It worked in the same way that I like Kristen Glover, whatever. Crispin Glover gives like very weird performances too, almost like he's taking the piss out of the role a little bit, but it adds to it. I enjoy some of the weird performances that are done by competent directors, not just like Nicolas Cage trash, where it's like Nicolas Cage is a good director or actor, but the director doesn't know what to do with him, so then it just comes off as terrible. But it's like I think it's when the actor is like doing these kind of eccentric performances with like a person who has good vision, I think is always fun. And I think like James Woods to me is filling in that role. Cause I James Woods I don't think he's like the best actor in the world, but I think that he is competent enough to like do this kind of hand up performance or kind of like do this kind of like weird, like, cause I think he's trying to be sexy is the funny thing is why I think I like it so much is that I think James Wood honestly believes that he's being sexy in this role.
Yeah, like, him with the whip was like kind of cringe, honestly.
Yeah, and that's like something I love about it is it feels so much more human. Of like he feels like this sleazy kind of like guy who has a little bit of power, and he's like the authoritative guy in this network. And he's like, it kind of reminded me almost like Mel Gibson and what a woman wants or whatever. And it's like, but it comes across where it's much more human, where it's like you get to watch this guy think that he's sexier than he actually is. Yeah, and I think that adds to it as well.
I agree with that. I love that about the character. It just only didn't really work for me when like it actually worked out for him, and he did get like the hot girl working like within meeting her once, like they're together in an item. And it's like, man. I'd love that character a bit more if maybe that sleaziness didn't quite work out for him in that way.
Yeah, I always wonder about that too, of like also how much of that is supposed to be planned for like his inevitable demise with this tape and like setting this up and his like infatuation with this woman who is like, we see her. I love that we see her like mouth a lot. Like it's like her lips, like in the TV screen, it's like her lips and like teeth are just like huge. And it's just like, we see her like her naked and stuff, but I think it's just the eroticism of just like wanting to like almost like make out with this television screen. But I do like to think that there is this layer of almost like he's being set up to like fall into this fucking, like the tape is almost like setting up this like weird downfall for him. And I think it's like this force of nature that's just so much bigger than himself. Cause it's like, it doesn't make sense that she just is like, all right, fine. And they go back to his like kind of shitty apartment. And then it's just, but then it that's when I start thinking those things. Cause as soon as that happens, all hell breaks loose for him. And it just slowly gets more and more horrible until he just completely goes insane.
What would you give the video of drones out of 10?
God, what would I give Videodrome? My heart
give it a 10.
It. I
don't let us embarrass you.
Yeah,
give it a fucking 10. We know you want to give it a 10.
I give it a 10. I love Videodrome. I love it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Alex, what about you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm a little bit low. It's not my favorite Cronenberg I've seen, but man, there's a lot of like, we didn't mention like the dialogue. There's some really thought-provoking, interesting dialogue that I feel like could have been reduced to a commentary as shallow as like, Phone Bad, like, but equivalent to the 80s, because it is like a lot of TVs. But there's something about that analog like design of everything that
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just aged well.
True.
Yeah, I like all that stuff. Television is reality, and all this. There's nothing real outside of our perception of reality. A lot of cleverness. Love the Rick Baker practical stuff. Yeah, I'd happily watch this again. This is a strong 7 out of 10 for me.
And I'm giving this one a 6 out of 10. But I love talking about it with you, and I loved hearing what you love about it. And don't worry, I'm I'm definitely not in the majority here. A lot of people love this movie, so glad I got to see it again. Glad I got to like solidify my experience with it and have a better understanding of what I enjoyed and what I didn't enjoy, what worked for me and what didn't. Lots of stuff to appreciate, and just wish that things were like more suited for me. Just me.
Mm-hmm.
Just make the movie for me. Nobody else. Just me.
You got lunch for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of those things too where I tried telling people like this film and like Cosmo Posmatos, is that the guy's name? Mandy director. I always forget.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're
name.
talking about. Yeah.
I always point people to like Videodrome, and I always point people to like Mandy or like Over the Dark Rainbow,
Beyond the Black Rainbow, yeah.
or Beyond the Black Rainbow, as just like really great ways of like how a director can be super artistic with just like the filmmaking and like just like surrealism in that way. I think is really important, especially for 1983. It's just so early in that, and especially body horror is so new and stuff, and for him to branch out and have it be something that feels also applicable to something that's more prophetic in that way feels just very impressive. So it's always felt very near and dear to my heart. I love that movie. But yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen A History of Violence as well? That's one of the other ones I've seen.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite different though. It's based on like a graphic novel, right?
I think so. People were always surprised that's a Cronenberg film.
Mm-hmm. It does, seem a little bit different.
Yeah, it's kind of out of his wheelhouse, but that's a great one. I love Viego though. I think he's awesome. Cronenberg's newest film was it was kind of not like necessarily a dud, but it's just like it plays on like a really cool thing. But I loved Viego, and I loved sitting in the theater and watching people be disappointed. Was a great with people just being like, "What am I watching?"
Yeah, I haven't seen Crimes of the Future yet, but I'm kind of really curious because of that weird disconnect, that disappointment factor. It does look cool.
It's I would pay the ticket price again just to watch Viego like pretend to choke for he basically is choking for like an hour and a half of the film, so it's really fun.
All right, question time. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do a couple questions here from the Sardonicast community. Head over to the suggestion thread on the subreddit if you want to leave questions for future episodes. Just like Negotiation Timely 736 did, who says, "What's the scariest threat you've received from your fans or haters? I know it sounds extreme, but it seems that entertainment criticism is what drives people to write angry comments and threats towards their beloved properties, even if there's some genuine criticism within the community. Thanks, and we appreciate your appearance, Meat Canyon."
Oh. Thank you.
A community that I'm not going to name, but I kind of referenced earlier in this video. There was a comment of someone saying like they can't wait for society to collapse so they can curb stomp people like me because I'm gay. It's like, okay, yeah, you got some interesting characters.
Oh my god, yeah, that's weird. The curb stomp, because I've had a curb stomp one before. That's like such a specific
Is it
one.
From the
though.
same
It's like,
community?
It's the same person. Yes. Genuinely, yes. So
That's
maybe
funny.
it's just this one guy.
Just admit it's the James Woods Twitter followers.
Yeah.
Just admit that finally.
Yeah, it's the Woods. The Woodsers.
I don't think I've ever had any real threats like that. I've had people just be mad because, I mean, as you guys know, it's like people can't usually justify someone just not liking something that they really enjoy or like love or something, and just be like, people can just have different taste. So yeah, usually it's just like getting called names or whatever, but I don't think anyone's ever like actually threatened violence on me for that. I don't know.
Yeah, depends on which communities you talk to, and sometimes if you'd upset certain people in a certain way, you'd see some weird things come out. So
is it like a Marvel or Star Wars crowd, or is it something
I'm not going to
different?
say anything, and I'm going to see if they think they know who they are.
That's us. That's definitely us, boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's do this one from Butter467. Question for Meat Canyon, but of course other sides can answer as well. How do you choose as to what topics you want to make a video on, since I see you tend to make videos on current trending topics such as Sneeko versus Charlie and XQC being a hoarder? Yeah, I guess you got to make that decision quick, huh? If it is more of a trending topic, and you got to be convinced that the couple-week turnaround is worth it.
Yeah, I think that if there's something worth a narrative there, or that can derive inspiration for something cool, I think is usually what I like to do. Otherwise than that, it's literally just a gut feeling of like what's interesting. You create so much shit that like after a while, like the aspect of just making something isn't as fun. So you really have to dig deep for actual, like, you know, what gets you excited, which sometimes will be the thing that isn't the most algorithm friendly, but you just have to make shit for yourself, I think. But yeah, no, I mean, you know, can you think of, can the mind breed a fun idea that's applicable? If so, but the trendy stuff is just literally for engagement and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, what gets your dick tingling. It's kind of the idea.
Yeah. I watched the Flash fully knowing it was something that I was, you know, either going to find funny bad or like excruciatingly painful. So made a video out of that, and it was tough to make it, as in I didn't enjoy myself and it took way too long, but it's doing well, so that's nice.
Was it excruciating or was it funny bad?
It was painful. It was absolutely painful. It was not even funny.
So I found it funny bad.
Yeah, I saw the trailers for it, and as soon as I saw Michael Keaton, I was just like, God has abandoned us. Like, there's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, it is pathetic.
Which is a shame. I love Michael Keaton. It's not anything against him, but it's just the idea of that, like, Marvel trying to be cute, like, or DC trying to be cute like that. You're just like, God, dude, please.
Riding
please,
a trend. Yeah, it's just sad. Let's do this one then from V for Volta. Do you think there's some truth to there being a negative impact on the film literacy and media comprehension of the wider population due to a current lack of aspiring filmmakers actually engaging with or expressing any important fundamental works of cinema from the likes of Bergman, Dreyer, Powell, Mizoguchi, and many others? While I don't think you have to necessarily like or enjoy these films, being able to at least learn what's possible from the experiences seems fairly invaluable to actualizing your own ideas on screen as effectively as you can. I personally believe someone of immense talent can still instinctively produce something of authenticity and quality regardless of what films they've been exposed to, but I've heard plenty of outcry about this from some channels I follow. By all means respect. Sorry, this is written a bit strangely. And by all means respect, who claim to struggle to see what's so distinguished or special about most critically acclaimed new releases in the grand scheme of things, and feel that standards are lowering, that audiences and critics alike are gradually becoming way more forgiving and less insightful than they should be overall.
I don't know if that's a trend that I agree with. I don't know if that's
is it actually falling, or is it just like now everyone just has a voice, so you're just hearing. Yeah,
maybe you just hear more stupid people. Like, I think that the media criticism, media literacy, like, these are more accessible than ever. People are having these conversations on the internet where, you know, it's clickbait at this point to be like, ooh, ending explained. And a lot of the times videos like that that are doing that kind of clickbait aren't promoting anything substantive. But the reason why someone would want to click on that in the first place is to, you know, hopefully get some sort of substantive dissection or explanation or conversation out of it. I feel like I don't think we're going in the trend that was implied by the commenter, but yeah, obviously there is value to not just consuming more different types of media, things that are, you know, hopefully outside of your bubble if you have a small bubble, but also hearing different people's perspectives on media, even ones that you might disagree with, I think is like a healthy thing to do for your own brain.
Yeah, I think there'll always be artists too that are wanting to be respected. Like, people, there will always be an artist that actually wants to do things like in a authentic way, and I think that comes from also, like, it's like with anything though, right? Like, I mean, it's like if you got into like metal, you might just watch like the hits when you're younger, but you want to dive deeper and go farther and find new things. So I think that, like, exploration and people like wanting to find new stuff will always happen. But at the same time, there will always be garbage, and there'll be more garbage now just because of what like studios are willing to risk on. But I always think that there will be like an authentic voice for, you know, film. Like I think that's just. I think that like that's just always something that will be there. People who are wanting to take influence from things outside of their comfort zones or try new things and find something that gives them that thrill of watching a movie for the first time. Like, I think that's always something that will be in the narrative.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's specifically a film literacy and media comprehension problem as much as it's just a general literacy and education problem.
Just maturity. Just maturity
And
problem, maybe.
Yeah.
I think just a lot of it too. Like I said, I think it's just so much of it is just what studios are like willing to risk on, and also like how much like those studios control the market and stuff too.
Yeah.
So it's just that shit's just blasted in your face way more, like reboots and all that kind of stuff. That's just what people want you to sit down and watch because it's the lowest risk kind of thing. So, and immaturity comes from that too, of like people who just like want to consume garbage. That's just going to happen.
Mm-hmm. All right, one more question.
Okay, let's do one more. Let's end on this
Let's
one.
do it.
From 2021 stinks already.
What?
Maybe a bit on the nose for this episode, but what do you consider to be a film that utilizes grotesque imagery in the best way?
Who?
It's a fitting one to end on.
Grotesque imagery.
The Thing.
I mean, yeah.
So you gotta probably go The Thing.
The Thing.
If I'd like branch out even more, I would. If like deeper cuts, I love Stuart Gordon's From Beyond. It's another great one where it's just like really gross and fun. Same with like Hellraiser. I think is a great one too.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Absolutely.
There's a lot. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of fucking movies that do that. I mean, fucking Videodrome, I think, does that in a good way.
Yeah, American Werewolf, that transformation sequence.
Naked Lunch.
Wolf Creek.
Yeah.
Wolf Creek. Just the main antagonist is body horror within itself. Just looking at him.
Yeah.
Even the Flash has some grotesque imagery.
You're absolutely correct. The Flash is just terrifying. Human Centipede.
I thought I there's not enough people that I've seen a lot of people that like that. I think the French Martyrs is a great one too for that. I don't think enough people have seen
that's
that.
A very
but I think
good one. Yeah,
I think Martyrs, the French one, not the English version, is very, very good, and it has a lot of disturbing imagery. Not so much like eccentric body horror, but it is body horror, but it isn't like mutating and stuff. But it is just like a pretty fucking difficult watch, I think, for some of the stuff going on in the film. But it's just so well done. I love that movie. So good.
Same.
I'm
such a great one.
I'm also going to shout out Gore Verbinski's The Ring, because just having that imagery on the videotape. I don't remember how much of it is 1-to-1 with Ringu, because I love The Ring so much that I've only seen Ringu once, so I couldn't even tell you which film to give credit. But a lot of the imagery in The Ring is just so memorable and like terrifying,
very iconic.
Like,
very.
It's still scary to me. Maybe I just watched it at the right age, but yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff sticks with you. Like, looking back at it now, I always think like The Lighthouse and shit, and I'm like, God, I feel like if I was in theaters today, I might be like, this is so cheesy. But I think like it's perfectly, I watched it at the perfect time in my life, I feel like, too. Just love it. Isn't there the lighthouse in that movie? Don't they go to the lighthouse?
In The Ring? Oh yeah, there's I thought you were talking about the lighthouses in The Lighthouse, the film.
I thought you meant
no, not. I meant like just the sequence of her like going to like a lighthouse where you're just like, what the fuck. But then again, it's like I watched it at the perfect time to where now it's all just so charming and fucking horrific and fun. Mm-hmm. And if I had to do one last one too, it would be I think Funny Games is another one that's like pretty horrific and like gruesome in that nature of just like,
but they don't show it.
the entire point of that just being like nonsensical violence, or just like watching violence, and just like I think that's a great one too. I love that
Funny
one.
Games. Are you a Funny Games US or Funny Games Austria? German.
I like the performance of the US one. The guy's a little more than that. If I
like the US one better too.
It's the exact same movie, but I do think that the guys, like the head antagonist, teen is very good.
Brady Corbett has
extreme-
much more of a
extremely good.
character than the same character did in the German one.
Yeah, and really great one. I love that director too.
Yes,
just another great.
He's my favorite.
Great guy,
actually.
Really?
Yes.
I thought your favorite. I thought your favorite movie was Holy Mountain. I thought you were going to be like a Tarkovsky guy.
Hodorowski?
Or Tartarowski, my bad.
Hodorowski.
Tartarowski.
No, yeah, I mean, like, The Holy Mountain is currently my favorite movie, but doesn't necessarily mean that he's my favorite director.
Michael Haneke is, yeah, that's right. Because people, not enough people have seen a lot of his films just because I think they're, I guess, just foreign or whatever. But the piano teacher always stands out to me as just like one of the literal most uncomfortable movies I've ever seen in my life.
Fucking awesome, yeah. We did that on the podcast actually too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good, cool, yeah. And how basically Black Swan just stole every aspect of that movie is what it feels like every time I see it. But I've been wanting to watch Cache too. I haven't seen.
Oh, Cache is amazing. That might be my favorite, but I gotta see it again. Sorry, Alex, you said you haven't seen it?
No, I've seen Cache. I just need to see it again.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I got one more to shout out. Sorry, just
Go for
Titan a couple years ago. That's got some good grotesque imagery.
Titan,
quite Cronenbergian actually. Titan.
I think it's pronounced Titan.
Titan.
I know, it sucks. It's fucking French.
That's actually a good recommend too for Cronenberg. I know people compare that director with Cronenberg a lot, with like Raw and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Roar.
Sorry. Let's not go down that track again.
Sorry, everybody. All right. Well, thank you all for the questions, and thank you so much for joining as a guest, Hunter / Meat Canyon / Papa Meat / Super Meat Boy.
Of course.
Would you do you want to plug your socials? Like, you have a YouTube channel, anything else you want to promote or whatever?
Yeah, just type in Meat Canyon or Papa Meat, you'll find me.
You know what's funny? The first time I read your channel name, I thought it was
Meat Crayon.
Yeah, I thought it was Meat Crayon, which is a very disturbing subreddit, and I was like,
a lot of people, a lot of people have told that to me as well, and I didn't know what Meat Crayon was until I went to the unfortunate subreddit, and then I was like, oh, well, there you go. And sometimes in my own subreddit, we get some of those fun Meat Crayon posts, and I have to be like, well, yeah, and I'm like, oh, wrong one. Oh, same with even just like people posting steaks. It's just like, I think they're just looking for a meat subreddit. Like, well, just cooked a steak. So it's a very odd subreddit that I have.
Well, now with AI technology, you can have an image of a canyon in the texture of meat. So you can have actual
God, we're living in good times.
Canyons. Yeah,
it's truly blessed times.
All right. There's a recommendation for next episode. We're doing a huge thing next episode. We got 2 guests coming on. We got Colin and April. You might know Colin as Colin from Canada. I don't know what April goes as. or if there's like I'm not going to say your last name because I don't know if that's public. But anyway, Colin and April are going to guest on the next episode. It's episode 150, by the way. And we're going to talk about all the Cube films. So Cube, Cube 2 Hypercube, Cube 0, and then the Japanese Cube remake. Yeah, we're going to talk about all of it. It's going to be packed. It's going to be long. It's going to... Oh boy, it's gonna be big. We got to watch them all soon because we're recording that one early. So it's going to be my week right now.
Less than a week,
Yeah. And if anybody listening at home, if you don't want to be spoiled for the Cube films, then watch them before the next episode comes out. These episodes come out every 2 weeks, but you can listen to them early by going to sardonicast.com and signing up for premium. It's only $2 a month. Also, patreon.com/sardonicast will do the same thing. You can feel good about yourself and support the show. We got merch link in the description. Does our merch link work right now, or do we have to fix that?
I think it's working.
Okay.
They've just taken some of the products away because of Ralph leaving.
Yeah, we're figuring some stuff out. We're in a transitionary period. Get those shirts because they're not going to be on sale forever. We're going to have a new design pretty soon. Well, who knows how soon. We're busy. We're busy boys. There's a Sardonicast highlights channel as well. You can subscribe to that on YouTube. Hit the bell subscribe to the regular channel, listen to this, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Thanks so much for guesting. Thank you. This was a fun episode. Thank you, Hunter.
Thanks for having me, man.
Check out Meat Canyon, and do not check out Meat Crayon. Don't do that one.
No, check it out. Fuck it. Why not? Roll the dice. Just do it. Fuck it.
And
live a little.
Have a happy 1000th planet, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Oh, God.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.